There's a new rowing machine on the scene and they're trying to land a big impact and make a splash. The company is Hydrow, and I know a lot of you have been asking my thoughts on it, whether it's worth it or not. Today I want to do an actual breakdown of Concept2 versus Hydrow and just try and keep it plain and simple across the board so you can understand the differences and help make a decision as to whether or not Hydrow is the right machine for you, or if you're gonna stick with a good old-fashioned Concept2. An important note before we get started, I do have an affiliate relationship with Hydrow, so if you decide to make the purchase after this video, the link's in the description below, and I will benefit from that relationship or that click from you, in which, thank you if you decide to do that. And number two is that Hydrow did send me the machine that's going to be in the video today, so with those things out of the way, I just want you to know this is a true apples to apples comparison, and that's the real objective of this video, is for you to be able to put the two against one another and say, okay, which one is right for me? So to kick off, let's take a look at the price difference. I feel like that's probably one of the more important factors that people want to know about between these two machines. So I've gone ahead and done the math for you on these two machines, cost of ownership for 1 year, and evaluating those two against each other. So let's look at the total cost. Now on the Concept2 side, if we're talking Model D, which was arguably probably the easiest machine to use for comparison, that's the most commonly bought machine, a flat rate on that is $900. Now that is domestically, of course, in the US. The prices may vary depending on where in the world you are, and we're not taking in COVID shipping rates or delay times or anything like that. So let's just look apples to apples. Raw price, Concept2, Model D, $900. On the Hydrow side, the machine is going to be running $2,199. I was able to, however, when I was attempting a checkout, able to find a coupon code through my Honey plugin that I have in my browser that actually brought the price down $200 to $1,999. So I'm just gonna use that number, $1,999, as the cost here. Now, of course, if that code, or you can't find a code that helps out there, $2,199 is going to be the number. Now let's look at taxes. Now both companies are going to be charging whatever your local sales tax is, as per required for any company that's doing retail sales. So for me, I used my local sales tax rate, and on the Concept2 that came out to $76.50. On the Hydrow side, it was $169.92. Now let's look at shipping. Concept2, they're always going to do a flat rate of $45, again, domestically in the States. So $45 flat rate shipping for them. Hydrow is doing shipping for free, okay? Finally, let's take a look at membership, because there is where the two machines differ. On the Concept2, there's no membership required. You buy a machine, you can use it as long as you want. There's nothing that goes along with it. On the Hydrow side, it's $38 a month. You can also buy annually, but that doesn't actually change the price at all. So annually it's $456, or monthly it's $38. So that has to be figured into cost of ownership. Now, if we take a look at that entire year's worth of cost for a Hydrow, that comes to $2,624.92. On the Concept2 side, to try and be as fair as possible, apples to apples, if you decided to buy the Concept2 brand new, and you had a membership to the Crew, which is our program that we have online, which is $19 a month. And so you don't have to do that, but I'm just trying to play as close apples to apples as possible. That would be $228 a year for our membership, then the cost of the Concept2. The total cost of ownership on the Concept2 side with some kind of membership would be $1,249.50. Without the membership, it's $1,021.50 would be the raw cost of that after tax and shipping. So the grand total difference between cost of ownership for a year of these two machines is $1,375.42. Next easy measurement to put these things side by side is to look at the actual dimensions: length, width, and height. So on the length, we are looking at a difference. Here's where the machines do differ a little bit. The Concept2, if we went tip to tail, would be 8 foot, and I'm measuring from the front of the flywheel to the back leg. So that would be an 8 foot. And again, I'm doing my best to approximate these, but within a half an inch, I would say I'm accurate here. On the Hydrow, you're looking at 7 foot tip to tail. So there is a 1 foot difference between the two machines. Other than that, the specs are pretty much the same. They're both 2 feet wide, and the Concept2, if we went floor to the top of the monitor at its tallest setting, is about 44¼ inches. On the Hydrow, it's about 46 inches. So almost a negligible difference on the height. On the width, they are almost exactly the same, but on the length, you do get a foot longer on the Concept2 machine, which is important to know if you're looking at vertical storage. 7 versus 8 feet could make a difference in some low ceiling places. Those would be exceptionally low ceilings, but it's important to know that that difference does exist on the size specs. Next up in our breakdown is the weight. Now, if we look between the two machines, on the Concept2 side, it is a 57-pound machine once it's actually unboxed and put together. On the Hydrow side, it's 145 pounds. So there is also a significant weight difference between the two machines. I have to assume that a lot of that weight comes down to the electronics that are involved in the machine, as well as the components that are inside the machine, which I haven't been able to disassemble it, so I don't know exactly what the internal working components look like, but I have to imagine there's a lot more happening in there, and that is causing that weight increase. Interestingly, with that weight difference between the actual machines themselves, there's also a difference in the max user capacity weight, as in what the heaviest a single user can be that's using the machine. And interestingly, it's like inverse to the weight of the machines. The Concept2 machine is able to handle a user weight of 500 pounds on that machine, on a Model D. On the Hydrow, it's 375 pounds. So that may be something that you actually take into consideration as well if you are looking at this for your own personal use. Now let's talk about storage, because that is a concern for some people. On the Hydrow, there's really no option other than on the floor or straight upright 7 feet up. Now, I'm not exactly sure what their suggestion is on storage, but I did test it, and you can fold the monitor up and stand it upright for storage. However, keeping in mind that it needs to be plugged in to be used, you may or may not choose to keep it plugged in while you choose to store it upright. And again, I haven't talk to them on whether or not that's suggested. On the Concept2 side, you can also do that. Concept2 does not suggest it, but many people do store them vertically. And I get a lot of questions about that in the comments of some of our videos because my machine's often stored vertically. I've never had a problem with it, but again, Concept2 suggests not to. But it's also important to know you could break the Concept2 into 2 pieces and store them separately, which does reduce the height and the space necessary to store. Essentially the longest part of that storage system becomes the monorail. So then your maximum height of storage is 54 inches when you decide to take it all vertical and put it in 2 parts. So if you're looking at a tight storage situation, that's another thing to consider. Okay, next up is our sound sample. I just picked this up just for you guys for this video. So the intent here is that you need to decide how much noise you can have with your machine. In fact, just the other day, I responded to somebody's tweet who was not a rower, but they mentioned that their upstairs neighbor had just found rowing again in the middle of COVID at 6 a.m. in the morning, and they could hear their rowing machine every day. I think most of us don't want to be those neighbors, and so noise is an important function of the machine that you choose. So we're gonna measure the decibel levels of a Hydrow versus the Concept2, and my pregnant wife has been gracious enough to help me sample this, and so what we're gonna do is she's going to row, and we'll get a sample there, and then I'm going to row, and we'll get a sample there of the 2 together, and we'll get an actual reading on the decibel levels between the 2 machines for 2 different types of movers. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is with my digital sound level meter is I'm gonna grab the baseline of ambient noise in the room, and I'm gonna show that to you once we capture it. At that point, I'm gonna have my wife start rowing, and this is able to grab the max, so the loudest that it gets. We're gonna remain as quiet as possible, but we're going to try and hold a stroke rate of 24. So all of our samples are going to be at a 24 and an equivalent drag factor of 117 between the 2 machines. That way we're trying to keep as many variables equal as possible. Okay, so noise results from the two machines. On the Hydrow, my wife, who is pregnant, was able to achieve 65 decibels, and I got up to 67. And really, what I felt was that no matter how much more I put into it, it wasn't gonna take that volume level up any higher. Now, according to the U of M Health website, that puts us in about a conversational range of volume. So it might be a little bit higher than a normal conversation volume, but that's about right as far as what kind of noise levels you're getting at this at what I would consider a very strong effort level from me and from my wife. On the Concept2 machine, she achieved an 85 decibel peak and I was at 90. So 85 and 90 were the peaks over on the Concept2. Now again, according to that same U of M Health website, I found that 90 is around about the sound of a lawnmower. So that's definitely something to consider. Sound-wise, you've got a much quieter machine in the Hydrow. Concept2 definitely coming in louder on that noise spectrum. Next, let's talk about the actual mechanism of work, how these two things are operated. Now, the way that Hydrow puts their machine, it's a little bit cryptic, but it's dynamically computer-controlled resistance, and then the attachment system here with the handle to the machine is a nylon strap, which inherently a nylon strap is going to be quieter. But as far as what the guts look like, I'm not wholly sure about that. And that resistance is created through the computer. And that actually goes to show anytime I need to adjust my drag factor on the machine, I'm doing it through the monitor. There's no switch or lever or any way for wheel or anything. There's nothing that I can actually do on the machine itself. I have to do it all through the computer, and that is what is adjusting my resistance. Now on the Concept2, I've addressed that over and over and over, but essentially it's a flywheel with a cog system and then a chain. And so naturally that chain on the cog is gonna create its own noise level issues. And then the drag is created by, what it's actually measuring is the deceleration of the flywheel on the Concept2 machine. So the drag factor or the work mechanism is created by the flywheel, which connects to a cog, which connects to a chain on here, dynamically computer controlled resistance, which connects to a nylon strap. So take that for what you will. I don't have a judgment on either way of that, but that is simply the understanding of how the two machines work. Next, let's take a look at the ergonomic differences between the two machines. What you're looking at is almost exactly the same setup between them. The foot stretchers look and feel very similar, same nylon straps, same foot stretcher setting, style, the same handle size. Now, the material difference between the handles might create a bit of a texture difference in your hands. That's something I've noticed personally. And the only thing, and this is purely speculative on my part, that I've noticed between the two machines, and I have not formally gone down and measured this, and ideally I will do that for you eventually, but to me the foot stretchers feel slightly higher of an angle for me when I am rowing on the Hydrow. It does feel a bit more, the closest machine I can liken it to would be more like a water rower feel, where it almost feels like that foot sits higher, and so as I come into the catch, it just feels a little bit tighter in the hip than the drop on a Concept2. So and it might just be an inch difference, and it might be only something that I feel because I'm so used to being on machines that I just notice those little fine differences. You may not notice it, but that is something, and again, I don't know this for sure, this is purely speculative, but it feels like the angles are slightly higher on the Hydrow, slightly lower on the Concept2. So it's higher than what you might be used to on a Concept2. Next up, and this is probably the most interesting piece of all of this, is talking about the technological differences between these two machines, because let's face it, that's what makes Hydrow so unique. That's what is their proposition, is that they bring tech to what is a well solidified hardware piece. They bring the tech to that. So let's break down the discussion of what happens between these two monitors and what you end up getting between them as well. So first up, I wanna cover the Concept2 because, again, we have so many videos talking about the Concept2, but for those of you, if this is your first time watching, let's talk about this. The Concept2 does have Bluetooth connectivity. It does have the ability to connect to apps via Bluetooth through your phone, so it's got good connectivity. It can go to any heart rate monitor you want, and that's the easy stuff. When it comes to the functionality of the monitor itself though, it's a basic screen with some deep functionality and good data readout. And that's kind of what people love about a Concept2 monitor, is that it gives you lots of data points that you get to work with and you can interpret differently. their main source of storing your information is the Concept2 logbook, which lives online or through, I guess you could consider Ergodata their app, which acts as a logbook as well, but more importantly, it pushes your data to the logbook. And so anything that Concept2 wants to do interconnectedly typically happens from Ergodata and then through onto the Concept2 logbook, where you can rank your workouts, you can collect your total meters over your lifetime, you can generally track everything that you've done. That lives in the logbook. Is it technologically or software pretty? No, but it does what it is meant to do, and it does it pretty flawlessly. And so that's kind of the argument for Concept2's PM5, that it's just a robust, working machine that doesn't go over the top on tech. It will always work. It will connect to whatever you want it to connect to, meaning, you know, it's a wide open Wild West for apps to come in and produce on top of the PM5, whether it's on your phone or an iPad or on a screen. There are lots of things that connect to it to give you a prettier interface. And there are lots of opportunities there, including we've even done a video on a VR headset that connects. And so you can use virtual reality with the Concept2 monitor. It's simple, it doesn't need to be plugged in, it operates off of D batteries, which last forever, and so it's a little bit more portable as well, similar to how I've carried it to the top of mountains, and it still works. And that is, again, the argument for their tech. They don't want to go over the top. They're happy to open up their APIs to others who want to build on top of it, and they allow that to be an open source area of competition where anybody can come in, create on top of it, and create unique experiences, of which there are plenty apps that do so. However, when we get to the Hydrow, they are attempting to create the ecosystem. And so let's take a deeper look at what happens on their monitor. So when I open up, or essentially when I sit on this machine, I don't know how they do it, but as soon as a butt sits in the seat, the machine senses that somebody is here and it wakes up. Kind of a cool feature. And I've noticed as well, if I'm walking by or if I accidentally hit the handle, it as well picks that up. There has to be something that's picking up movement of the machine, and it turns on the monitor. Pretty slick, I do like that. Now, when you log in, you can create as many profiles as you want, meaning if you have a household, anybody in the household can have their own profile on your Hydrow. So you can add as many as you want, you can join different teams, and when you get in, essentially, you're your own user inside there. So then we get into a profile. So I'm opening up my profile right now. It is, number one, it's a good looking screen. There are visual references. As soon as I log on, my dashboard has a rolling footage of one of the workouts that have been filmed. And so you're seeing the instructor and it's suggesting, hey, here's a good workout for you to check out. Now, it's saying that it's recommended for me. I assume that is happening perhaps based off of my past workouts, and it's saying, based off of what you've done, here's something that we think you might like. Now that's just my dashboard. From inside here, I have on a menu, home, library, feed, racing, progress, profile, and help. Now, inside of home, I'm able to scroll. I can see different programs where I have take a trip, training camp, of different levels here. And you can see it's all touchscreen. So that is very, very nice. It's a good interface from that. Then you have your upcoming live rows, which you can schedule. So you can see when it's going to happen. You can log in and be ready to go with the particular coach that you might like, of which they are definitely going the Peloton route, where you begin to like your coaches and you come to their workouts and use them for your workouts because you click with that coach. I think that's pretty cool. And the coaches are actually on the water. So you're seeing a real water rowing experience. Not all of them, of course, they do have off-machine experiences. Now, as I scroll down further, we have featured workouts. Then you have a list of all of the coaches that they have, of which there's a decent selection. I assume that that will grow over time. And some of the athletes that I've seen there are more inclined towards the dry land versus being on the water. So it's fun to be able to select a workout via the coach or via the location or via the intensity level that you want. You scroll down more, you get popular rows, and there's a getting started section, which is kind of it looks like a general, here are some early on workouts you may want to consider. It doesn't look incredibly robust or put together yet. Now, Hydrow did offer to give me an onboarding experience, which is not something that they would give to everyone. So I declined to take that onboarding experience because I wanted to be able to give as true of a review of this as possible as a first-time user who had perhaps purchased the machine and was attempting to use it myself. So what you're getting here is my review of how I've experienced it myself as a user for a few weeks now. So that is your dashboard. But if we want to get specific, I can go into, we'll just walk through the menu. From the library, this is the library of all the workouts they have, of which there are a lot. So don't worry about ever running short of workouts that you can do. Now you can sort these by athlete, duration, workout type, and location. Pretty cool in my opinion as ways that you could sort the workouts that you want. Again, if you find an athlete or a coach that you love, you can do all of their workouts. If there's a duration you want, 10, 20, 30 plus, you select that, and that's a good way of sorting through them. Then you've got workout type. Now for workout type, they use drive, sweat, and breathe. Now drive is your high intensity, sweat is your medium range, and then breathe is your low level, your baseline. So if you're with us on YouTube, this would be considered our beginner, our intermediate, and our advanced workouts. That would be the same thing there. Then you've got warm-ups, cool-downs, journeys, learn to row, and on the mat. Those would be the off the machine things. Now, what is interesting as well is you do have the ability to turn the monitor. So when you are off the machine, if you're doing mat-based workouts or strength workouts or warm-ups that aren't on the machine, you can turn the monitor so that you can see it while you're off the machine. Nice little feature that they have. Then you go into location, and from location, I haven't quite understood this yet. It says Boston, Miami Beach, and then just destinations. Now I guess destinations just includes everywhere else where they have filmed, and some of these are all over the world. And so that the location function feels like it needs a little bit of work still on that. Next up, you've got the feed. From the feed, this is where you are able to interact with other people. You can give them thumbs up, and this is where you see other people's workouts. So you're looking through all of the people who are doing workouts, what workouts they're doing. It shows you. You can give them a thumbs up, you can comment on their workout, and this is their kind of their community function. Then you can go to racing, and racing is kind of what I've enjoyed the most out of the monitor so far. There's one weekly meter race workout, so you can compete in teams of 2 into this weekly meter race, and you have to do this one workout that's assigned as the meter race for that week, and you and your teammate get whatever your total meters are between the two of you. And it's kind of fun. It gives you a built-in competitive edge, and my wife and I have both enjoyed doing this together. We're on our own team. It's the Dark Horse Rowing Team, go figure. And so we've been doing the meter leaders race each week. And then there's also the minute leaders, which is the total minutes accrued, I believe, per person or per team on the workout. So that's kind of cool as well. It gives you some of that, again, competition feeling built in and gives you a reason to really just have fun. And I think that's a really important piece of this is they're trying to get you into the ecosystem using the machine because that benefits them and you. If you're using it, that means that you're finding value in it and they're keeping a user for life. I mean, there's nothing mystical about that, but that is what all of us are trying to do. There's a reason that I make workouts for you guys. I want you using them because that incentivizes me to keep making them and you to keep using them. It's a symbiotic relationship for everybody. Next, we can go to progress. This is where you're going to see basically your history of everything that you've done. On my profile, I've done 13 lifetime workouts. I've done 20,000 meters so far. They set milestones for you. They also donate to water.org based off of the number of days that you've rowed. So there are donations that they're making. They're setting milestones for you. You can earn badges that go along with the app. It tells me the number of calories that I've done in the last 7, the last 30, and my lifetime. So I've rowed 20,621 lifetime meters. I've done 7 days of workouts, and I've burned 1,550 calories. So these are just the things that you're seeing. And then I see all of my workouts listed below, and I clearly am seeing an incentive towards one of their athletes, Nick Kowalski, who's a guy that I've actually rowed with and know, and he's a good guy. So I've had fun watching along to his workouts. Next up, I go to my profile, and inside of my profile, I can add my height, my weight, my birthday, all of the things that just are inside of a typical profile. I believe I can add a picture there as well, but I'm not totally sure how. And then inside the help screen, they've got 101 facts, privacy policy and terms of use. Kind of a screen that I wouldn't see myself using. Now here's the one thing that I have not been able to find. I've been told it's there, but I haven't found it yet. I haven't seen a just row function. I haven't seen a way where I can just get on, row, to do whatever I want, program a workout myself, and do whatever workout I want to do. I have not seen that in here, but again, I'm told it's there, but from a user experience, I don't know where that is or how I would do it. Now, interesting things come up inside of the workouts, and so I wanted to just briefly touch on that as well. You get a blend of voice from the coach as well as their music or their playlist that they choose. So with that, you get to select how much coach voice and how much music you hear, and you get to play with those two sliders together. So if you just want to hear the coach and listen to your own music, you can do that. If you want to silence the coach and just listen to their playlist, you can do that too. And I like that. I think that's nice. And over here, you've got a volume key, so you can turn that volume up or down based off of the speakers that are here at the bottom of the monitor. So as far as interactivity goes, I think there's more depth than I've been able to find. But again, this is I've tried to invest myself into it to give you an honest experience here. And there are some things that I would say I don't like that I haven't been able to figure out how to program my own workouts. And with that being said, that goes for the just row function. Just sitting down and just starting to row, maybe, there's some way of just putting on a playlist. If it exists, I don't know about it yet, but I would think that, that would be kind of a front and center thing to at least allow me to have an apples to apples experience with a Concept2. Now, again, from Hydrow's perspective, there may be a reason for that. I'm not exactly sure. And I'm not saying it's a knock, it's just a thing to know that I haven't been able to find, but again, it might be there. All right, so nearing the end here, let's talk about the connectivity differences between the two machines. Primarily, it is simply in what their app ecosystem looks like. Hydrow allows you to connect to both earbuds or some kind of audio device and a heart rate monitor. In fact, at this moment in time, I think you get a free Polar heart rate monitor when you buy a machine. So they do encourage heart rate tracking and being able to see that on the screen, as well as if you want to put in headphones so you don't have to listen on the speakers. Same thing with Concept2. You're able to connect a heart rate monitor to the PM5 or to their monitor. And from there, the Bluetooth allows you to connect to your phone, which is kind of what opens the world for Concept2. They live in an app-based ecosystem versus their own ecosystem. So anybody can build on top of it, which means that you can be playing Spotify on your phone with erg data running, and so it's tracking your heart rate and you're hearing your music as you go. Or you could be watching one of our YouTube workouts where you are running erg data so that it's tracking as you go, but then you're also following along with me inside of one of the YouTube workouts. And so that's kind of what gives that difference in experiences here. They are trying to kind of bring you into the ecosystem. Concept2 is saying, hey, anybody, come join us. And that's really the difference between the two machines when it comes to their connectivity. A final note, and I just actually noticed this while I was perusing the site, I hadn't even seen it before. There is a camera on the monitor here. Now, who knows what that will eventually be used for, but it says at this moment that it's turned off and that there's also a microphone. So this is both could see and listen to us. I have to assume that that eventually leads to some sort of coaching functionality, which would be incredibly interesting if they were able to pull that off. At the moment, it says they're turned off, and we're trusting that that is the case. But as with all things, there's inherently always going to be a question with tech when it comes to that. But I think that's an interesting thing to build in for future use and could increase their ability to create an experience on the machine. But right now, it's not doing anything other than just existing. And finally, the delivery experience. When I have experienced the delivery experience on both of these machines, and they're inherently very different. Now, when you get a Concept2, it comes in just a big rectangular box. You open it up, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. It's the monorail, it is the flywheel assembly, then you have 2 of the arm brackets, and then the front foot. You put in 8 total screws, you snap together the assembly of the monorail and the flywheel, and your machine is put together and it's ready to go. There's nothing else that you have to do. You can do the entire thing in probably about a half an hour's time or shorter if you're really good at it. The Hydrow requires a scheduled delivery. A delivery team comes, sets it up in your space, plugs it in, registers you to the machine. They walk you through the setup and get it on working. They take a picture of you accepting the machine. It's a pretty thorough delivery experience. I have to assume that that comes somewhat in part because of the weight of the machine, as well as just, there's a lot happening here. It's kind of, they're trying to emulate more of a Peloton style experience rather than trying to necessarily rob from the Concept 2 experience. So it's a bit more integrative in the way that you receive and have your machine delivered to you. Some people are gonna like that, some are not. But the point being, you're going to get very different delivery experiences between these two. So if this helped you to make your decision between making a purchase of a Concept 2 or a Hydrow, I would very much appreciate it if you would use the affiliate link in the description below, because that will help me out. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button so that you get alerted when I come out with new videos.